It's still early morning, hence why I got this stuff. Please don't make me do stuff, this shirt. I'm on my way to Houten. I've got two bicycles in the back seat over there. And if everything goes as planned, I'll be driving back with a new bicycle. And one which suits me really well. So I'm really excited. Wish me luck. Well, I did it. I got my new bike and I left my two older bikes over there. So one is actually over 20 years old, maybe like going to 30. And the fun thing is, it's actually a cheaper brand than the other bike was, which was a Koga. This was a Batavus. But they can still sell that beauty. And I remember years ago when I was at the other store and the guy said, just hold on to it because I can sell it. And now, so many years later, here I am selling the bike. So cool, cool, cool. It's, that first bike, I started buying one actually because I was like, okay, I've driven a car for so many years, lease car, and now I want to ride a bike again. And I remember that the first time I got on the bike, it was like freedom. Well, since I had that bike, the Batavus, I've had two Koga Miatas. Well, the first one got stolen, and I love that one. And this one, well, like he said, it's been used, and it has been used. I mean, all the time that I had problems with my ankle, with the crutches on there, that's what it went through. But even before that, I remember it's been built and it's been rebuilt and then rebuilt again. Chain came off. Everything you can imagine, it was wrong with that bike. And he actually said, yeah, that's going to go to some charity, or where they can fix it. And yeah, I get it. So that bike is getting donated. But I got the new bike and it's midnight blue, of course. And I've been in luck because this model is either from 2020 or 2021. I'm not entirely sure. And it's not available anymore, especially not new ones. And this happened to be an occasion. And yes, there are some scratches on there, but who cares? The main thing is actually that the whole system, so when it comes to the techniques, that's still working. The frame, all that stuff, it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. It's not crooked. So I'm very happy about that. So I think it's actually a little bit bigger than the other one is. And it's much sturdier. So it's a very good deal. Well, it was a little bit scary, sort of. Well, let's put it this way. I was not completely at ease. Having a bike carrier, not sure if that's the correct word, on my car, but I managed. And actually, it wasn't that scary at all because once I was on the road, it's not that much wider actually than the whole car is. And it reminded me of driving in the S-Type Jaguar. Well, actually, I think that one is the same width and probably the same length too, maybe a little shorter with when everything is attached to the car. So yeah, it was actually pretty comfortable. I realized I needed to remember that I had it on, because you actually cannot really tell that it's much longer when looking in the mirror. and back mirror. So yeah, it was quite the experience. So we swapped a whole bunch of things. We looked at, okay, what's nice keeping, what's not, and oh, I'm back again. There was a lot of rain, so the bike has been baptized, um, so to speak. And well, I dried it a little bit, and now it's here downstairs. So just want to say I got the bike, yay! And he was so surprised because I've got a 56 centimeter, no clue what it is in inches. And he said he didn't expect someone my size to be able to ride on there. And then when he saw how comfortable I am, he was like, whoa, she can actually do it. And I said, yeah, I've got a short upper body, but I've got long legs. And because of my knees, I actually need to be able to stretch them. So, well, he got the message and he agreed. So, awesome. Took me a few hours to get there, get it done, and then head back. But then you've got something. So, that was my adventure with the bike. And soon I'll be posting photos of me riding the bike when it's dry. Okay, laters. Tonight I had the pleasure of riding on my bike for the first time, locally that is, and it was good. I'm still getting used to the bike, just a little bit. But here's the thing, before I got on the bike tonight, I was actually driving my car. I met up with a friend, and we were talking about visualization and also about, somehow picking up on things. Well, here's the thing. I am crazy about blue. Midnight blue, cobalt blue. So normally my hair is a little bit more blue than this. It needs to, well, you can actually see it right here. There it's still blue, but this needs to be painted again by the hairdresser. But everything blue, you know. So we talked about things and how to really look for things. And this is the one thing. I wanted a new bike for a long time already. And I wanted the same one, same brand, Koga. But for some reason, I didn't get around to it. So I think not this summer, but last summer, so a year and a half ago, my house guest decided to go work on my bicycle. Maybe even it was 2 years ago. I don't know. And she didn't start with the Koga, but she started with the Batavus. And that was the bicycle that I've been talking about, which I have had for, I don't know, maybe close to 30 years, 25, somewhere along those lines. That was the easy one, of course, because only 3 gears. So that was pretty simple. I'm still astonished that she can do all that stuff, but that's a different story. Anyway, then it became time to do the Koga. And I don't know, discussions, what should be put on it, material, all that stuff. And I had this nagging feeling like, we can do all this, but what if? What if this isn't it? Hang on. This bike had been, it was the one I bought when the previous Koga had been stolen. And from the get-go, I had problems with this bike. From the get-go. Change that broke down. It didn't just switch gear normally. And there was always something going on with that bike. And of course, I've used it. I've been to the beach a lot and also to other places. But it just didn't work as it should. So when she was starting to fix it, and then there was another 20, then there was another 40, then there was another 50, and it started to add up real quick. And today I was just looking at it, all the little parts. Um, well, basically, I got 15 euros for it because he won't be able to sell the Koga because it's used and it's done. And he basically said the quality Koga from back then was inferior quality. So I wanted a new Koga. And like I said, it had been nagging me like, we need to stop. At some point, everyone was done with the bike. So I was going to get a new one and get rid of this one. And a friend told me there are some places where you can donate the bike. So I actually was going to do that in locally, but in the end, the shop where I bought a new bike is going to donate it there locally, over there. So people can, I wanted something which was more than 3 gears. I wanted something which had more than 8 gears because it just didn't work. And then, well, I tried an e-bike, an electric bike. Mm, Well, there was quite a good one, but very expensive. And this is the thing, I am not up for an e-bike yet. So a couple of my friends actually do have e-bikes. One in particular, she has this big bike. There's like what do you call it? It's like a cart in front of the bike where the kids, they can actually sit in that cart. And they call it a bamboo bike, if correct. Um, but basically what you do is you transport your children in the cart in front of the bike. Well, if you want some help um, getting your children in there, and also that whole wooden thing, I mean, that's heavy. So yeah, it makes sense that you would like to do it and get an e-bike. Another one was struggling with a lot of health issues. So same story. And yes, I do know that I also suffer from a number of health issues, but here's the thing, I need to move. If I don't move, it's going to be going downhill. So I went to Ada. Well, actually, a couple of times I went to some shops over here in the area. They came up with something, it was called a signature bike from Koga. I loved the idea, but again, much money, even more than the e-bike would have cost. And then I was like, there must be some center where I can talk to Koga. And then there was the Koga Experience Center. So the next day I went to the Koga Experience Center. And I'd been looking at bikes, and the one that came popping up was the F3 series. And I was like, okay, so F3 series. And then I saw F380. But that one isn't available just yet. That's going to be somewhere at the end of this year, but likely somewhere in the middle of next year. And then I saw an older version which had what I wanted, which was 11 gears, because people had been explaining to me that instead of the normal chain you can have on the bike, that you can have like a belt. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Less problems, smoother. And so I was like, okay. So I went looking for it, and I was like, hey, that's cool. 11 gears, that's better, way better than 8. And I can tell you it is. Right now, it was a smooth bike ride I had earlier today. And one of the things why I didn't want to go for 24 or 27 or 30 anymore is A, because of the history with the other bike, and B, because it really hurts my thumb if I have to push it all the way through. So I was like, I don't want that anymore. So when looking online, I was like, whoa, that is cool. There's one with 11 gears. And then I saw there was one which was a little bit older, the F360. And guess what? Midnight blue. Not black and yellow like the new one is, but midnight blue. I was like, ooh, that's cool. So it appeared that a couple of stores still had them, and they were all far, far away. One was in Belgium, the other one is in the east of the country, and I was like, oh my God. And then one other popped up, which was in the middle of the country, which isn't that far away. And I was like, oh, hang on. So when I went to the Koga Experience Center, guess what we ended up with? That one, the F360 Midnight Blue. I actually have been riding on that one. And then he said, but I'm not sure if it's available anywhere. And he said, no one has one anymore. But I said, but I saw those other stores, so I called them. There was an error in the administration. So I said, well, I know someone who has an occasion. So we said, you know what? Let's call the guy. And he had it exactly in the size I wanted it to be. And all of them were a little like, are you sure you want to go on such a high frame, such a tall frame? And I was like, yeah, that works for me. So I was happy. It was actually in that size because that's the size I wanted. So I instantly bought the whole thing, when it still was at the Koga Experience Center. Hadn't seen it yet. We talked the day after, and then today I wanted to pick it up. And it was like, it was amazing straight away. Of course, there were some things I didn't know about the bike. But here was the thing, and this was about, feeling like I need to continue the search. That's mainly the thing. I need to continue the search. But also, everyone who knows me knows I love blue. And, it's beyond me how I got that, just that one that's out there. And I think it was great timing, I decided before I went to Chicago, no, I'm going to wait. And I guess, well, I mean, if I would have decided earlier, I probably would have been able to buy a new one instead of on occasion, because that's when they were produced. But in this case, I think I've got the very last one, which is kind of cool if you think about it. And it feels good because when I was talking at the Koga Experience Center, the guy said, no, you don't want an e-bike. When I was talking to the guy where I bought it from, he also said, no, you don't want an e-bike. And both of them were astonished. Some words are still a little bit difficult for me, especially if I have read them and heard them but not said them just yet. So astonished that I was actually able to ride a bike which was that high, that tall. And I know there are people who are taller than I am and they have trouble with the height of the bike, because I like the height of the bike so I can stretch my legs. But yes, it was, I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, I threw it in the air a long time ago, 2 years ago. And again, I could have bought it back then. It was a lot of money though to do it back then. And it was much easier for me to afford it now. I'll just be quite honest about it. This was doable for me. And back then it wouldn't have been doable. A lot of things have changed in the last couple of years. Anyway, it was an interesting conversation we had about thinking about things. I'll get back to it, certain things that Joe and I have been talking about and that we ended up doing together, just not in London, but in Chicago. And I think it's good to have an idea about what it is you want and then keep looking for it, putting your energy in there. It's the taking action which actually makes the difference. That's what I truly believe. And of course, I might have found another bike which wasn't blue. Um, but this feels good. This feels really good. So, to end the story, I went for a ride on the bike and I was like, how do I get the lights to work? So, I always have a spare set of lights on my bike. So, I got it on this bike too. And then someone came up with some suggestions, number 3, from all the people. And he said, well, basically it came down to me having to be Houdini. So being on the bike, cycling, and then pressing a certain button, because I had found the button, but I was like, yeah, but it needs charging the bike, the lights, and then it can actually, then there's enough current to get the lights to go on. But then the thing needs to know that I want it. So I basically have to press the light while I'm cycling. So I felt a little bit like Houdini, but it worked, and so that was good. And it's weird because it consists of all the colors I like. It's together with another certain color, which actually resembles the Captain Marvel watch really well. Has sort of that color too. Um, yeah, and I was like, yeah, this was about, feeling I need this. And yeah, people can tell me I need something else, but no, I need to keep on searching. It was that feeling. And now I've got, from what seems to me to be the perfect bike. Of course, we are going to see if it is, but for now, it is. And it was so funny when we talked about the whole visualization thing. And I think we know deep down in our hearts what it is we want and what we're after. And the question, of course, is how easily do we give in? How easily do we give up? Or do we continue to keep on searching and keep on taking action? And I guess it's the latter. So we also talked a lot about routine, but that's an entirely different story too. But I do believe that in the midst of putting together routines, and I told you I'm going to do the cleanup challenge, so that's going to be something for next week. Well, at least the last weekend of October, latest. It all makes sense because I brought 2 bikes to the bike shop. One is going to be donated, which I loved because I wanted to donate it over here. Now it's donated over there. I got some money, which is nice too. The feeling I had like I need to stop getting all this stuff for this bike because it's not worth it was correct too. Finally, someone who said it. And so yeah, I've actually spent a lot of money, maybe thrown it away, not on purpose, and hopefully someone else is happy with it. But it could have been prevented if I decided to go find a new one sooner. But like I said, this was the better timing, and it seems to be at the right time because I've started to clean up other stuff too, things which are related to my parents, things I've been holding on to. What one can question, is it needed or not? And well, there are other videos which actually refer to all that stuff, and that's what I meant. The timing is just now. It's an excellent timing, And I guess, well, that's what the guy and I were talking about, my friend and I were talking about. So that's what I wanted to finish with when it came to my new bike, the Koga S3 6.0. I do need to get an insurance on there, so in case it gets stolen or something else happens, and then see what's going to happen once I have that policy. I know what's going to be. It's about 300 for 3 years. I just need to get it done, and it's like 10 a month, and for a bike which is about 2K, I think that's doable. Anyway, this is my story when it comes to making decisions, routines, keeping routines, changing routines, putting them together. And this part was about my bike. Remember that if you are in the middle of saying, I want to clean up, I want to change my goals, I want to figure out if my friends and my goals and the way I'm doing things are still the things I should focus on, or maybe I should change some and get rid of some, then keep an eye on that challenge. It's going to be the cleanup challenge, and it's going to be at the end of October.